Namo Tasso Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Good night to you. This is the second Dhamma on Air, where we will discuss 3 questions that have been sent in. And the first is Mahayana versus Theravada Buddhism. What about that? And a second under question about that is, has Hinduism destroyed or distorted Buddhism? And the Mahayana versus the Theravada Buddhism is best explained in the historical context. 100 years after the Buddha, right after the Buddha died, 3 months after the Buddha died, there was a first Buddhist council where one decided about what the Buddha have said, and the Tipitaka, as we know it today, was recited by 500 arahats that all were enlightened. Happened in Rajaga, the 7 caves, Satapani. There, in a cave up in the mountains. This cave is still existent. 100 years after the Buddha's death, a lot of different schools has arisen. Some of them called Stavidas, and a collection of schools called Stavidas, and another collection of schools called Mahasangikas. And the Mahasangikas, they want to change the disciplinary rules. They want to change 10 rules, where they want to change 3 rules that were crucial to the Stavidas that later became the Theravada school. And one of the rules was they think it was allowed to drink alcohol. Secondly, was a rule that it was allowed for Buddhist monks they want to change the rules so they could use money, gold and silver. And the third rule is that you could do whatever your teacher that was allowable. Doesn't matter what the Buddha said. If your teacher said it could do, then they would make it so that you could do it. And there was other rules also. But nevertheless, there were a council there, but nobody could agree upon it, these 2 schools. Much was said, but nothing sensible was said, and they couldn't agree upon whether these 10 new rules that you should be allowed as a Buddhist monk to use money, to drink alcohol, and to do as your teacher said, and 7 other rules, whether they were acceptable or not. So both parties decided, we take 5 representatives from the Mahasangika school and 5 representatives from the Stavida school, and then we send them into a monastery for half a year, and whatever they decide when they come out of this monastery, this we will all accept. Both schools agreed upon this way of solving this problem. So 5 from each camp of the disagreement. Everybody agreed that whatever they say, these 10 people, when they come out, we will abide to that decision. Then they came out and unanimously, with a vote 10-0, decide that none of the 10 rules should be accepted. We should stay as with the rules, with the Vinaya, 281 rules, and other rules as well, that the Buddha have put down. We should stay at that. We should not change anything. However, then the Mahasangika said, we will not accept that. And then they went and make another council, another place up in Pakistan. So they went out. They would not accept the decision, even though they have said themselves, we would accept the decision. And because of this, it's called the first schism. Because of this reason, we will not, the Theravada school will not accept the Mahasangika's way of handling this issue, because you cannot say, I want to, we deal with this, we take 5 representatives for each camp, whatever decision they take, we'll accept that. And then afterwards, because the decision goes against your interest, then walk out and say, we will not accept it. This is lying, deception. And because of that, the Theravada school will not accept any Mahayana monk as a truly Buddhist monk, because they do not abide by the rules they decide themselves. That said, today I don't think there is any schism between Mahayana and Theravada schools. They can meet at big Buddhist conferences, and regularly do, and try to discuss Buddhist matters on a friendly basis. So there is no any schism today, but it's good to know the history. The history is listed in the Mahavamsa, and I'll just give some of the second Buddhist council, which is to be studied to come to know these things. And I give the link here. The chapter 4 in the Mahavamsa, the great chronicle, the great history book, which is from around the 1st century after Christ, which is based on the Dhamma, which is from the 1st century before Christ. And this is probably the best account of early Buddhist history. The Dhamma is fairly small. It's from the 1st century before Christ. That is approximately 380 years after the Buddha's death. Another issue is, what is Buddhism? Which of these schools are representing Buddhism can claim to be Buddhist in the first place? And they asked the Buddha about this question, and he said that there is one criteria, the Four Noble Truths. If the Four Noble Truths is in a doctrine, and thereby also the Noble Eightfold Way is in a doctrine, then it's Buddhism. If the Four Noble Truths of the Noble Eightfold Way is not in a doctrine, then it's not Buddhism. And this make a clear cut how to decide whether a given school or praxis, this can be regarded Buddhism or not. And if you use this criteria, then, for example, Tibetan Buddhism cannot be regarded Buddhism, because there's nothing in that text that can explain the Four Noble Truths or the Noble Eightfold Path. And this also goes for other Buddhist, so-called Buddhist schools, that they're not really Buddhist after the criteria put down by the Buddha himself. Then there's a second part of the question: has Hinduism destroyed or distorted Buddhism? Not really. Yes and no, you can say. Most of the non-Buddhist schools, they are more related to Hinduism, actually, and this also goes for Tibetan Buddhism. But wherever Buddhism went, it was kind of like joined with the local culture. So you can say Tibetan Buddhism is Hinduism mixed with Burn, and then a little bit Buddhism, then go around. Chan Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism in general is Taoism and Confucianism mixed with Buddhism. But I have to say, Chan Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism is closely related, because they actually have the text of what the Buddha said included in their school. So they're very close. Chan Buddhism then went over through Korea over to Japan and became Zen Buddhism. And Zen Buddhism is then this Chinese Buddhism mixed with samurai culture. So there's a lot of culture mixed in. That also goes for Theravada Buddhism today, both here in Sri Lanka and also in Thailand. And it's what the original Buddhism mixed together with Buddhist culture that has taken its own path, its own development. Not always, actually, not always fully orthodox, even in the Theravada school. So that is just not a function of Hinduism, I think, in general. That's a function or result of impermanence. When impermanence sets in, then understanding goes down, because understanding is difficult to maintain. When understanding of the real issues goes down, for example, of the Four Noble Truths, of the Abhidhamma, of the Noble Eightfold Way, then superstition and blind ritualism goes up. This happens for any school, also happens for Christianity and for Islam and for anything. When the founder is dead and the understanding of what he really meant goes down, then ritualism goes up and superstition goes up. Culture sets in, you can say. And this also happens for Theravada Buddhism, but it will last, as far as we know, it had lasted now 2,500 years, and it will last 2,500 years more before it's completely gone, where you cannot find not even the text are available anymore. Then there will be some million years where there's no Buddhism, fairly many million years, I think, until the next Buddha come. And I think he will come around 756 million years. But that's my personal opinion. It's not in the text. It's my personal opinion from an analysis of the matter I cannot really say so much about. Then to the second question, why do the Buddhists not appear and help us now? Yeah, that's simply because there is no fully enlightened Buddha in our part of the universe right now. And when they do, they would look down on earth when they come down from the Tusita heaven. They will look down. The next one is called Buddha Mitteya, the friendly one, Mitteya, the unconquerable friendly one. So he's very friendly, also where he is now. He will look down and say, I was the median age of human beings. If it's below 100 years, as it is now, they will not come, because then human beings are too defiled. They are too confused. And it is said about teaching the Dhamma among beings that are less than 100 years of median life age. That is like drawing in the water with a stick. You can't draw in the water with a stick, but soon whatever you draw is gone. And so also with the ability of the human beings right now to remember the Dhamma when you have taught it to them. They remember it very short. Within minutes, they have forgot it. So it's very difficult. Therefore, the Buddhists don't come. Same thing also when the median age of human beings is below or above 100,000 years. Then they don't come. Why not? Because then they cannot remember that you are dying. So you cannot explain to them about suffering connected with death, simply because human beings, because they live 100,000 years, cannot remember death. This also goes for the devas at higher levels. And that's why the Buddha always come at the human level. Another issue is that actually we know that there's 10 bodhisattvas. At least 8 of them are humans, and they are present among the human beings now. But the human beings don't listen to what the bodhisattvas say. The bodhisattvas are all Buddhist, all Theravada Buddhist. So, well, the problem is not that the Buddhists are not coming, because there are good Buddhists here who say what Buddhism is about. The problem is that the humans don't listen, because they are too defiled. They are too confused. They are too greedy. They are too ignorant. And that's basically the problem. Even if you teach the Dhamma to them as pure as it can be, it is like drawing with a stick. The teaching disappears. It doesn't work because there's so many other things in the minds of the human beings at this moment. I can say as a kind of like a collateral of this question, why do the next Buddha material, why doesn't it come now? Is that sometimes one Thai monk from a century ago, so he reported that some devas, some gods of significant power and freedom, they came and asked him to teach the Dhamma to the human beings because the human beings were so naughty, so defiled. And then he asked them, why don't you do it yourself? You are so powerful, you are so great, you are divine. And then they said also, but the human beings, they don't listen to us. So you have to do it, Bhante. And then he did as good as he could all his life. Now he's dead. I hope this answers these questions. Then there's this last question. How do you face ignorance, neglect, and harassment on the job? And there's kind of like two issues here. And one can use two techniques. Is in general, if you are abused, what technique, how should you go about it? And the first technique is to do metta meditation and be metta both on the pillow and on the job towards those who harass one, and then or neglect one or is hostile towards one, whether it's on the job or in the civil life, wherever one uses. How to do metta meditation? Very shortly, one can do, say, like from one's heart region towards the heart region of the target. It can be many people at the same time. Let's say all employees at the job, from one's heart region towards their heart region, then one generally repeats, and inside oneself, may they be happy. May all beings be happy. May they dwell at ease. May they experience no problems. This one do in this direction, that direction, to the back, this direction, below as above. And then one will see, if one does this intensively, that the colleagues at one's workplace slowly will change attitude and stop harassing one. This is the one technique. Another technique is to use upekkha, which is another divine dwelling. There this is used twice in two ways. One, repeat this verbal device inside one's head. All beings are born of the karma. They are created by the karma. They are conditioned by the karma. They are restricted by the karma, and they are adorned by the karma. They are owners, debtors, and inheritors to the karma, which is their intentional actions, verbal, mental, and bodily actions. Whatever they do, good as bad, only they will feel the later result. And then one reflects upon it. This goes for oneself, and this also goes for one's colleagues at the job place. So regarding oneself, if one is harassed at the workplace, what's the karmic condition for that? Yeah, it might be that one in a past life or in the past has harassed others or has disrespected others at a workplace or in other circumstances. Had disrespected others, people that should not be disrespected or harassed. So that's one way of looking at it, is something that I have to endure because it's a karmic debt I have in this universe. I have harassed others, and now they are harassing me. So I should just endure it, and then it will gradually exhaust. It will not last forever. So one should use endurance there, and patience, and tolerance, khanti parami, towards these unfortunate circumstances at the job. But knowing the situation can be that it's one's own mistake. It's not the other's mistake. Of course, they are participating in this causal network where one's own karmic accumulation has a causal effect. But they're part of it. That's their deal. That's their business. They are responsible for that. One cannot change that. So this is the two main tools to use: metta, friendliness, and upekkha, equanimity, where one understands that it's maybe one's own karmic accumulation. It's an echo, a mirror image of one's own behavior one is running into there. And then understand that everyone is responsible for their actions, oneself as one's colleagues. Third thing, when understanding that, one will use endurance, patience, tolerance to stay put wherever it takes and whatever it takes. How long? The Buddha say one should accept such or try at least 6 times. If one have tried at least 6 times, then it's allowable to go somewhere else and try somewhere else. So I say, if you try 6 months with these 2 techniques, and there's still harassment of you, and there's still problems with this workplace, then I would go leave this workplace and find a new job. And this also goes with other circumstances, among friends or problems in the family or wherever. One tried 6 times, not only 3 times, but 6 times. If can solve the problem there, otherwise it's better to move on. Find some other circumstances, not kind of like headbanging in the same circumstances. I hope this answers the 3 questions. I still not find out I can hear you. I'm sorry for that. But I hope we'll find out in the future so it can be more interactive. I'd just like to ask if there's any more questions on. I'll use these questions and ask these questions here. If you can submit questions here on the left side of the scene here, ask your audience to submit questions and they will appear below. If you have any further questions, then you could write them down here on the right side of my screen. That doesn't seem to be the case. So we'll finish for today on the 3 questions: Mahayana versus Theravada, which I have answered. It again goes into the Mahavamsa, to read the Mahavamsa, or the Second Buddhist Council. If you do a Wikipedia search on Second Buddhist Council, then the information is there. Read the chapter 4 of the Mahavamsa, then one can see about the first schism. Why the Buddhas don't appear, in short, is because the life length of the human beings are below 100 years. And then teaching Dhamma is then like drawing in the water with a stick. The third issue was problems at the workplace. In brevity, use metta, friendliness, and upekkha, equanimity, and the law of karma, knowing the karmic efficacy, and use tolerance. Thank you for today. Namo Tasso Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Worthy, honorable, and perfectly self-enlightened is the blessed Buddha. Værdig, fuldstændig perfekt selvoplyst er den velsignede Buddha. Thank you for your attention.